Welcome to our program Psychological Studies. Today, the second module, entitled The Integral Being. Our reflections will be based on a theory of reincarnation. The Benefactor Joanna de Angelis, in her book The Integral Being, presents a link between Spiritism and Transpersonal Psychology. It is the study of human conflicts in the light of Jung and Allan, the Codifier of Spiritism. Many different studies in psychology happen throughout history. As we probably all know, in studying psychology, we will find out different models which are available for those who have interest. Spiritism is studying the human person as an immortal spirit, presents a proposal based on immortality, on reincarnation, therefore helping to understand and solve our problems from a transpersonal perspective, where we are the authors of our own destinies. Are we aware that we are responsible for our own evolution, for our own progress? And if we are not aware, what could we choose to do to guide us towards that self-inner exploration? A large part of the popularity and persuasiveness of psychology comes from its being a sublimated spiritualism, a secular, ostensibly scientific way of affirming the primacy of spirit over matter. We are all immortal beings. The term spirit might have evolved in a mystical fashion, but in today's civilized and thinking society, it refers to our inner self, the divine within. The spiritual benefactors in the Spirit's book, question 23, "What is a spirit?" answered, "The intelligent principle of the universe." And in the same book, question 76, "How may we define spirits?" They said, "We can say that the spirits are intelligent beings of creation. They populate the universe beyond the material world." With that in mind, as incarnated spirits, we may ask, how do I perceive myself today? Is it from a materialistic viewpoint or from a transpersonal perspective? What are my interests? Are they from the ego state of mind or from the self level onwards? Let's reflect. A spiritual person is a person who is interested in realizing his or her inner self, then giving in to any conformity of the ego. In that way, integrating spirituality into everyday life. We could say that feeling the ego is starving the wisdom, and the choices are ours as well as the consequences, bearing in mind that we are all using our free will. Is it in a responsible way or in an irresponsible way? Are we using our free will in making choices from the ego state of mind, which will bring us negative consequences in our destinies, in our lives, in our existences? Or are we already choosing to use our free will from the self level onwards, where we all carry within the higher potentials, the higher values, the values of goodness, that bring consequences in our destinies which are good? The choice is ours. Spirituality is a lifestyle of awareness that combines the understanding of faith, body, mind, and soul, allowing us to live modern-day enlightened lives in small and big ways. Every small movement which departs from the self-level onwards has a huge impact in our evolution path. Learning that spirituality is not about adopting more beliefs and assumptions, but uncovering the best in us, as divine beings as we all are. So it is not about more knowledge, but it is about more wisdom. The only way we are going to reach places we have never gone within is if we trust God's direction to do things we have never done. The question is, are we ready? Are we open? Would we trust a process which we don't know what it is? If we allow ourselves to be guided and directed by God, who is our Creator and is love? Is a good question, isn't it? Avoiding change is denying the path that leads to our spiritual growth and integral health. Unless we take that first step into the unknown, we will never know our own potentials. So far, in our evolution process, we developed ourselves pretty much on the ego state of mind. I'm speaking here in general. Of course, there are exceptions. In the present moment, we are all invited to reflect and to connect as a consequence of our reflections towards the self, the divine, the potentials that we bring. Potentials means virtues, the values, the concepts, the inner potentials that helps us to expand our superior faculties within our hearts and within our minds, and therefore they will be extended through our way of being. Spiritism helps tonight. It advocates the Spirit's connection with the universe. As mentioned previously, we are intelligent beings in the universe. It involves knowing the ultimate truth that comes from God and is love for everyone, everywhere. In such realization, one transcends the ego, reintegrating it according to the self's direction. Vital to understand that the ego needs to be directed and guided by the inner self. The self needs to be supervising the ego in our daily experiences. Spirituality is about love that speaks to all people, no matter a person's fame, fortune, or faith. The immature person demands others' space, manifesting the hiding insecurity and the infantile desires. Do we know if we are mature or immature emotionally? Have we developed inner boundaries? Because if we are ready, through our own choices from the self-level onwards, matured enough to create inner boundaries, we will not be one of those that is demanding other spaces. We will know through our inner boundaries, limits, how far we can go when it comes to relate with somebody else. We will develop discernment. Only donates, shares, the one who has and is free, inwardly matured, self-fulfilled. Where are we? Are we able to share? Is it easy for us to engage with that experience? Are we able to donate our time, donate our intelligence, donate whatever good we have within? Is that something that we already are engaging with? Or is that something new to us? Spiritist knowledge brings to life the teachings of the Spiritist philosophy, the revealing observations of Spiritist science, and the unequivocal operation and justice of the natural laws. Whether Spiritist or not, we should always strive to learn from it, so we may be better prepared to face our own evolution, our own tribulations, our own illnesses, as learners of ourselves as we all are. Understanding the natural laws of life makes such a huge difference, because we will learn to resignate ourselves in relation to the experience which are not down to us to solve and to control. Through that inner peace, inner tolerance, inner flexibility. Our intention through these reflections is to provide individuals and communities with efficient tools to foster personal and collective growth. We know that for any organism to grow and flower, strong deep roots together with resilience and flexibility are needed. These essential requirements direct and shape the development of our progress. Progress happens when we learn to flexibilize our minds, to flexibilize our hearts. And we all can do that as long as we choose it. The enlightened spirits are interested in assisting us to create a solid inner foundation so that we will have the capacity to recognize and actualize our individual potentials in our own unique way. We are all unique individuals. We evolve in a unique way. We actualize ourselves in a unique way. Therefore, who are we? Do we sense ourselves as unique beings in the universe? These reflections provide a framework for us to directly experience who we really are and recognize that we are the source of our own life force. It's strong, isn't it? That we activate the law of cause and effect through every decision, consciously or unconsciously. Do we know that we are the source of our own life force? Are we conscious that we are activating constantly the law of cause and effect through every decision or choice that we make on a daily basis? If our choices are made from the ego state of mind, they will bring consequences which are unpleasant to us as mechanisms of learning. If our choices or our decisions are made from a state of mind from the self level onwards, they will bring consequences that are pleasant to us, that bring inner peace, that bring inner harmony. By working with an individual's desire to develop personal wholeness and meaning, our reflections also begin to transform relationships and dynamics in family and workplaces. This will have a profound effect on the capacity to relate amongst each other with more efficacy. Learning to become more patient, forgiving, willing to cooperate towards the good for everyone, we choose to overcome our own shadows and in that way work towards a healthier relationship with ourselves and others, promoting a healthier environment around us, a fraternal, solidarious way of living in society, in the community, in our workplaces, in our family settings. The fundamental methodology is know yourself by being yourself as a unique being in the universe, created by God, walk in the pathway of evolution through inner transformation, inner actualization, and therefore achieving inner liberation through the new ways of being according to what we really are. Beings of light, beings of peace, and beings of love. That is what all of us essentially are. Are we conscious of that? In developing resources that challenge and stimulate all aspects of our intelligence, intellectual, emotional, social, creative, and spiritual, we increase our ability to consciously respond to any situation in any moment in a balanced, centered way. Inner promotion. Our main tool of exploration is self-inquiry. The goal of this process is integration, which we define as the capacity to grow while including and acknowledging past experiences, transcending previous concepts of self, and eradicate all that doesn't serve anymore our evolution. Are we willing or ready to acknowledge, to integrate past experiences? Acknowledging and including past experiences means learning to forgive, means learning to accept the experiences and people who are part in our history in a loving way. Coming to terms that everyone did the best that they could. And if there is anything that they didn't do to us that we need now, we are free to develop the responsibility, which is the internal autonomy, to offer it to us, especially self-love. Quite often we have been going through experiences of lack of affection, either from our parents or those who were carrying us. Understand now, they gave us the best that they could. It's time for us now to forgive, to forget through self-love. We can all do that. So if we don't do that, we are fixated in past experiences. And the past experiences, as mentioned, they impact us now through our negative limited desires or tendencies such as irrational fears, anxiety, aggression, anger, irritation, lamentations, pride, selfishness, and so on. Vanity could also be mentioned, so many other negative limited tendencies. Learning to develop our free will responsibly, we choose to program or reprogram our memory based on thoughts that elevate, thoughts that bring meaning to our lives, that uplift our souls, even when we go through challenging experiences which are natural in our journey of progress. Who doesn't go through challenging experiences in life? All of us. They are mechanisms of learning. They are possibilities to promote ourselves in goodness, as long as we are willing to activate the inner wisdom. All this will lead to a much deeper understanding of our functioning, our talents, and uniqueness of our soul. This results in the ability to maintain a better work-life balance, the potential to be more comfortable in personal and work relationships, and the ability to handle modern life or stress in a better way. We always can improve. We always can promote ourselves in goodness. We always can overcome our own limitations. Vital to know the authentic self, where we remember and recognize our true identity. Our true identity, dear friends, is divine. Who we really are behind the masks of the personality and egoic identity. Fundamental to become aware of our inner judge. Through this inner journey, we will find a path dedicated to freedom from the inner oppression, freedom from the inner repression and conditioning enforced by the inner judge, the inner critic, the superego. Do we suffer from self-criticism? This is what we're talking about. Different names that point to that presence that constantly judges and evaluates every aspect of the inner and outer reality of the individual and punishes with guilt, shame, unworthiness and belittlement. This is one of the most significant obstacles in the path of self-realization. If we are within these processes, may we give ourselves new opportunities to forgive ourselves, to forgive others, to become more loving, more accepting of ourselves as being of goodness as we already are, as beings of love as we already are in our essence. So overcoming the self-critic, the self-judgment. The activity of judgment is so intrinsic to our functioning that we give it for granted even when it causes great pain, misunderstandings and conflicts. This is mainly because self-judgment is essentially compulsive and unconscious. It's part which emerges from our inner negative constructions. Considering the integral being, self-knowledge, within Spiritism helps us to recognize the importance of this theme, as much as it offers a guide which helps us to deal in an experiential way with the transformation of our relationship with the superego. Transformation which is absolutely necessary if we want to live the fullness of life and know ourselves in our authenticity and uniqueness. Is our life full? Are we enjoying our lives? Do we have meaning in our lives? And if not, what can we do to bring meaning to our lives according to our reflections here today? As long as the inner judge controls in conscious or unconscious ways our life, we cannot experience true love, true freedom, beauty. Self-love, according to the natural laws of life, is about being loving, compassionate, and caring towards ourselves and all of those different individuals who are part in our lives. All of us bring within the capacity to develop those abilities, those faculties of a being of goodness. The spiritual benefactor Joanna de Angelis teaches us that real freedom starts in our thoughts as a form of aspiring what is good, what is fair, what is just for everyone, everywhere. What are our values or reference regarding freedom? Is it about I do what I want all the time? That is not freedom. That is a lack of inner freedom. That demonstrates selfishness. Inner freedom, as the benefactor Joanna de Angelis teaches us, it starts with our belief systems, with our thinking. Every thought that is without the values of respect to ourselves and others is not freedom, is disrespect, and so on. Free is the spirit who dominates himself or herself in developing self-love, overcoming their own illusions, understanding that there is no freedom when we lie, misguide, betray, slander, and so on. Do we know our own illusions? Are we willing to overcome them? Our illusions emerge from the ego state of mind, and the consequences in our lives will be negative. Through introspection, inner reflection, and inner renewal, we choose to mature our immature tendencies, liberating from our infantile beliefs, such as irrational fears, as we mentioned previously, loneliness, anxieties, insecurities, resentment, hate, loneliness, favoring the development of our own mature identity as being of goodness as we all are. Remember, we are already beings of goodness. The present moment is favoring us with the possibility for us to expand that goodness within. The education, psychotherapy, and the methodology of social interaction needs to be structured in an awareness of being before the having. Needs to be structured being without the preoccupation of showing off. All our problems, dear friends, all our conflicts proceed from our complexities, from the dominance of the ego. The ego needs to be supervised and guided by the self. The self is the aspect in us where we bring the seeds of all the potentials of goodness, of a being of goodness. The external values are incapable of resolving our internal crisis, while on the contrary, quite often, they are triggering them. Therefore, the courage to confront our own conflicts without violence or withdrawing enables us to succeed in our inner transformation journey, leaving in the past the causes of our negative experiences, choosing in the present to initiate the construction and reconstruction of our ethical values, of the values that correspond to our immortality, values that are good today and will be good tomorrow in our journey, reinforcing vigilance so to carry on exercising, because the new conditioning needs exercising in order for us to persevere, to motivate us to become more conscious and therefore deactivating the old belief systems, activating the internal strengths, choosing to sustain our new healthy belief systems, values, in that way maturing ourselves ethically and psychologically, and therefore spiritually. The objective of the corporeal existence is the achievement of the eternal values, and the goal is to conquer the equilibrium between what we think we are and who we really are, conquering the emotional stability to stay the same through happiness or sadness, in health or illnesses, in triumph or weaknesses. One of the differences between who meditates and who doesn't is the mental attitude in which each one faces their problems. It is fundamental to dominate the mind, exercise our free will in developing habits, behaviors of a good person. What is our state of mind? Do we know? In which way do we face our problems, which are experiences, aiming to promote ourselves psychologically and emotionally? In that way, we are consolidating new belief systems and new concepts, which helps us to promote ourselves towards happier, healthier states of minds in a short and long term. Understand that the small movements towards goodness that we exercise ourselves consciously on a daily basis will have a huge impact in our destinies, in our lives, for better. Favoring the integral being with motivation, courage, determination, in continuing to make efforts towards self-fulfillment, self-realization, choosing Jesus as the greatest psychotherapist, as his proposal of self-discovery leads us closer to our essence, our divine essence. Bear in mind that God is love. He created us with love in order for us to learn to love ourselves and others. Love can be exercised in cultivating the virtues, as long as we are willing to do that. And everyone in the universe is capable of learning to love. We start this process by learning to love ourselves. As divine and good beings, we are essentially. Understanding this level of evolution and the daily experiences are favoring us possibilities for us to progress, to perfect ourselves, to actualize ourselves. Self-love brings us back to our essence as immortal beings, beings of goodness, who have been created by God with love in order to learn to love every creature in the universe, as we are all brothers and sisters in humanity. Let's try. Do you feel open to start now? To start today? To trust the process of learning to love yourself and love others? Let's engage with this proposal of goodness within, of this proposal of self-enlightenment, inner transformation, inner actualization, self-love, potentializing ourselves, becoming happier beings, becoming beings with more caring abilities in these challenging moments where we are experiencing and living on earth. But remember, we are here as brothers and sisters in humanity, invited to exercise loving each other. Much peace to all. Much love to all. See you soon.